To the Face podcast. Very special on-location episode. First of all, I'm Brett, and there's Joe over there. And that's Peter Bales over there, comedian. You may have seen him around for a long time. You may have seen this guy a long time too, Jackie Martling.
Yes, and we are celebrating or announcing or promoting the fact that
he's opening up a Bareburger.
It's true.
Peter and I are doing the show on Saturday, the 25th of September at 7 p.m. at Governor's Comedy Shop, which I opened 40 years ago. In the old days, rock and roll got louder and louder and louder, and there was a rock and roll club named Bareburger. And as the bands got louder and louder, the neighbors got more and more pissed off and called the cops more and more often, so they were going to shut these guys down. And somebody got the bright idea of, why don't we open a comedy club? And one of the other guys said, hey, why don't we get that guy with the phone line? Which was 516-9221.
Still got it. Still works, right?
A shirt for each of you guys.
Thank you very much.
516-922-9463. They called me up, and I went over there with my future ex-wife and said, put a speaker there, put a speaker there, put the stage here, put the sound booth up there. And we opened up. Opening weekend was Rob Bartlett and Bob Nelson. I hosted all the shows for a year and a half, and we kicked ass. And here it is 40 years later, and we're doing the big celebration. The hardest part of the whole thing, of course, is admitting to ourselves that
it's 40 years. It's 40 years.
What are you guys, 39?
No, we're 39. It's like Jack Benny, we're 39.
Okay, cool.
We haven't changed a bit.
Good, good. See?
It's a great place, and it's the only place still standing, you know, like these comedy clubs going, you know, they're all gone. But
Chuckles in Mineola is gone.
Oh my God.
Governor's survives.
Survives along with the brokerage and...
Pardon me? Yep.
Back then, I was booking the brokerage and Governor's Comedy Shop.
So how did you transition from that to radio? How did Howard find you from there?
What happened was a guy named Brian Battles was on Saturdays on WDAB, and he called me up and said, can I call Dial Joke on... It's funny, I can't call Dial Joke. I got a cease and desist from the New York Telephone Company. I'm a little guy with a machine in his mother's attic, and they give me a cease and desist so I can call an X-rated joke.
Is that now Verizon?
Yeah.
New York Telephone, whatever it's evolved into?
Whatever it's devolved. But Battles put me on after like 2 or 3 weeks of being on his Saturday show. Everybody loved it so much. Of course, Bob Buckman and Perry Apollo said, we'll have that. And they put me on 5 days a week on WDAB, which did amazing things for the joke line and amazing things for Governor's Comedy Shop. They would say they were calling 922-1, but in reality they were calling my house, and I put a special tape on for them, which wasn't as filthy as the regular one, but it would get progressively dirtier and dirtier, and then I'd start insulting Buckman, and when he couldn't take it anymore, he'd set off a bomb, and then go to the #1 rock and roll song of that week, and he did it every day at 8 o'clock for 5 days a week. And it made the thing so damn popular. And then Rick Dees in Los Angeles got a hold of 922 Wine. He told his listeners that 516-922-9463 was Tom Selleck's home phone number. And he told that to his national audience, and the whole thing went through the roof. But in the course of doing all this, I made comedy LPs. And the way I got on Howard's show was I sent my comedy LPs everywhere, and I sent a set of them, me and Nancy sent a set of them to Howard Stern after he got fired in Washington, D.C. and moved to New York. I sent my records, and then one day he called up and said, you know every joke, come hang out. And went in and hung out at the
and history was made.
At the end of the day, they said, you're a lot of fun, come back next week. I came back once a week for 3 years for free. And then we went to mornings, and then we went to Pluto, and now I'm back at Governor's Comedy Show.
The circle of life.
That's how it works.
The circle of comedy life.
But I love it, and I love going on with your boys.
Over at WBAB, that's the crazy thing, is that with BAB, it's been Bob Buckman and Roger and JP for over 40 years. 2 mornings, it's unheard of.
It's unbelievable.
And you know,
I don't know how long, but I've been on with Roger and JP a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been back with them for 7 years, and I think we've been doing stuff with them maybe 10 years.
At least a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they've been on the air for 21 years. So it's really amazing to have for you to be attached to the station and Governor's Comedy Club for around
For the
the same
long,
time.
I still have bumper stickers that, Jackie the Joke Man, Martling, and WBAB.
Oh, I gotta see those.
Bumper stickers.
Oh, they're at the station.
The Jackie ones are
I know where all those stickers are.
in the basement somewhere, right?
I
They're in
was
the basement.
given 3.
You have an actual.
Oh, you mean that they
There was
still have
one
the
that said
stickers?
BAB and it said something on the side.
Right, and you have a Jackie one.
I don't have a Jackie one.
So see,
I know,
that's
I
what
built
I'm
it up for
saying.
nothing.
And
I
they
know.
also
Yeah.
and they also made little ones. I don't have any of them, but I have them stuck on things.
Of course.
You know what I mean? I can
Of
send you a
course.
picture of one.
Yeah,
Such
do
a
that.
long time
yeah.
ago, Buckman replaced Marconi, I believe.
I remember that. So there's
All
been
right.
3 morning shows in.
If you read the
in
history
60
books, you'll
years.
see
It's in every 20 years.
They were fun.
Do you miss radio doing it every day? Obviously, you don't miss the hours, I'm sure.
You know,
You wake up early in the morning still, right? Or no?
I
He
get
goes
up
for
and
a jog,
I
he
get up
gets a
and
vegetable juice going.
I get up and swim, but then I go back to bed. But,
You still do that every day?
You miss the camaraderie. Yeah. Today I only went to the float and back because it's fall today. It could be summer tomorrow.
85 degrees, still full.
The camaraderie of hanging out on the radio is so great. But once in a blue moon, I go and sit with your guys or sit
Right.
with other guys here and there, and all you gotta do is get up once and go.
Right.
Things I don't miss.
I'm glad I do this once in a while, not every day.
When we first went to mornings, after a couple of days, I was dying, and Dave Herman had been the morning guy on WNEW for 25 years, and he followed us at K-Rock. After a couple of days, I said, Dave, how long before I get used to this, get used to these hours? And he got a big smile. He goes, you never get used
Nope.
to it. I said, you couldn't lie to me and say you'll be fine in a week. I said, no, it's
It's true.
It sucked the first day and it sucked the last.
Yep.
What time did you have to
adjust.
get up? What's
You know what? It didn't even dawn on me till a month or 2 ago that I used to get up at 4:20.
you told me
How appropriate for you.
you told me once that you got up at 4:20. If it was 6:20, you never could have done it. But 4:20 was just so insane.
So ridiculous. Because it wasn't tomorrow yet. It was yesterday.
Right.
And every clock in my house was set to a different time, so if I was late in the kitchen, I ran into the living room. It's amazing how your body, you wake up and you sense,
Oh my God.
You're so used to it. Yeah.
you sense that it's drizzling, you know enough to move your ass because you know there's going to be more traffic because you know that somebody's going to run into somebody.
Okay.
I
Oh my
commuted for 15 years from Bayville, and the last year I got an apartment in Manhattan. And then,
Just in time.
And then I got thrown on the show.
He was ready to make the move.
And I kept the apartment up until like a couple months ago,
But now, in Artie Land, who placed you at that time, you have since become friends. Were you friends with Artie prior to that?
Artie did not replace me. Artie started 7 months after I was gone. There was never any crossover. I knew him from earlier on. He came on the show a couple times with Norm Macdonald.
Right.
Rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
But Artie, I got a documentary coming out, and Artie's great in the documentary, and he said he walked in one day and his father said, holy Christ, what a radio show I just heard, this Howard Stern show, and there's this nut on it named Jackie Martling, wait till you hear this guy. And he heard me and he loved it, and they used to come to see me at Rascals, him and his boys, and get loaded and have a great old time.
That's going to be us next Saturday.
That's it.
He said if
Are you guys coming?
We'll be there.
Of course.
He
All right.
said if anybody ever told me that one day I'd be sitting in that chair, he's a great guy.
And how's he doing today? Obviously, he has his issues.
I first had my first contact with him in a long time, a couple days ago. It was great to hear from him. He's doing fine.
Doing
He's
okay.
fine.
Obviously, him and Norm were on the show. Or at least Norm was on it a bunch
Right,
of times.
well, that's how I got in contact.
in the late 90s.
I texted him and said I was really sorry to hear about him. He wrote back and said thanks. So, I mean, I haven't really contacted him much because you leave him alone. He's finding his way on his own.
I just saw him actually before the world shut down in February. We saw him at the Space in Westbury, and he was actually really good.
Right, Artie.
He was actually doing well.
That's good. Artie,
Yeah.
Artie's
Kicked ass.
a pro.
Kicked ass.
Problems aside, he knows what he's doing. Do you remember Norm being on the show on Howard?
I always thought he was really funny, and we had a little bit of a bonding thing in our heads because he loved dirty. Not dirty. He loved jokes.
Sure.
Jokes, dirty jokes, anything. So he, he appreciated what I did. And he was a good guy. He was funny. He was so different.
Yes.
Which is so nice.
And even if things, I felt like with him, if things got uncomfortable, that's when he felt comfortable. Like that's when he pushed it a little bit more and kept it going.
That was his sweet spot.
Right?
Letterman said just this week, we would have had Norm on every week if we could.
Yeah, he's that kind of guest.
He's that kind of guest.
You know? What's your biggest memory in radio, or just in general in the past 40 years? And as you celebrate on Saturday at Governor's, what comes into your mind?
There were so many highlights, but I was just telling somebody last night, I don't even remember when, but we broadcast for a week from Abbey Road, from the actual room where the Beatles recorded.
Oh my God.
And we did the Princess Trust concert.
Right there.
Let it be.
I didn't realize that. And
See, I pay attention.
We
Trying to take his
broadcast from
clothes
the
off?
Princess Trust concert, and when we were on the road, I would sit here and Howard would sit there and Robin would sit there, and across the table from us, the Bee Gees sang a cappella. And James Taylor sat in either knee, and one day Sam Kennison came busting through the door at 6:15 in the morning with Chuck McCann, Pat McCormick from our childhood. Jack, I always forget his name, Jack from the original Letterman show, and the original Newhart show.
Right.
The nut from when he was a psychiatrist. And Sam had gotten gun at the comedy store, and they were doing a bunch of coke, and he said, "Come on, man, let's go to the Stern show." And they got in Sam's plane, and I'm behind me, I'm looking at McCann, McCormick, Sam. I'm like, well, that's Mount Rushmore comedy,
right?
Wow. But would you say the best guest on Howard was Gilbert?
No, the best
That was
guest.
some of my favorite memories when I was a kid, like listening to Gilbert on there.
Gilbert was very funny, but
Absolutely.
minute for minute, the best guest was Cooper, Pat Cooper.
Pat Cooper.
He was just so
Machine
relentless and so crazy, and not even necessarily as funny as it was crazy. The energy was brutal, But Gilbert was so funny, but so many guys were so funny,
Of course.
But Gilbert, stood above, like Belzer was really funny, but nowhere near like Gilbert, And when Gilbert, if Gilbert got a hold of something, it was like a dog getting a hold of a piece of meat, and just go berserk. And I wrote so many lines for Howard. When I would actually write a line and give it to Gilbert and use it, that would be like, boom.
So now when guests come in, you would write lines too. Is that what you're saying?
I very
Once in a
rarely
while?
give it to a guest.
How would you determine?
I only gave when Gilbert was doing Dracula.
Yeah. How did the writing of the jokes come to be? Like the process of how did you know when to pass it?
It was so organic.
How did the timing come down?
I was working there one day a week. We were on the air so early on. He had just started at NBC. That Coca-Cola was a sponsor. Howard Stern had Coca-Cola as a sponsor. They hadn't canceled yet. So that's how early on. And Al Rosenberg used to come on and pretend to be Lou Ferrigno, who was deaf. This was such a classic.
Can't do that these days.
And when there was a home Knicks game, the show ended at 7 instead of 8 because the Knicks game had to start on WNBC. So he's winding it up. So every guy in the tri-state area is tuned to the radio show, even if they didn't like the Stern show because they're waiting for the basketball game to start. And Al Rosenberg sitting there, hey, he's deaf. And Howard had to read a liner, which is not a full commercial, just like a mention.
Right.
He said, and our sponsor, Coca-Cola, wants to make sure that you have plenty of Coca-Cola and snacks on hand for the game. And I wrote down snacks, underlined it, put a question mark, and wrote snatch, and gave it to Al. That quick. And he said, "When you say Howard?" He said, "Coca-Cola and snacks." And Howard immediately picked up on it. "You can't say that, Howard. That's just no, Lou." I said, "Snacks." "Damn, you can't say." I'm telling you, guys told me they almost drove me off the fucking road.
Unreal.
Oh, off the road. And that was the first real memory I have. But slowly but surely, I was giving him ideas. And when he got fired from NBC and moved to K-Rock, after a month or so, when he got comfortable there, they had me come in, and I actually came in, and there was a place for me to sit right in front of where he was with his loose leaf. So I could easily write something. And you know, it got to the point at the end of NBC where I actually would get a stack of paper and a Sharpie, but I was just kind of pushing in front of it. It didn't really make a lot of sense, but it definitely made a difference. But now I'm sitting at a place where I'm writing something and flipping it over, and Robin was over there, and then Fred would write a little note and pass it to me, and I'd rewrite it. At one point, I just got some paper and put it in front of Fred. So there it is. Here's a Sharpie. Write neat. And so you can hand it to me, and I can hand it to him, because you write it, then I got to write it. The moment's lost. Comedy moves.
Absolutely.
And I was on 2 days a week to start, and when, within a month or two, I was on 5 days a week.
It's so funny, like thinking back to listening to the show, and you would always hear the marker. A little bit, like if you paid attention.
What happened was, if
you could always hear in like a quiet moment.
If you work with a
Sharpie moving.
If you work with a Sharpie, when you first start writing with a Sharpie, it's silent.
Right.
But the more you write with the same Sharpie, the alcohol dries up and it starts to squeak a little. But once you hear it, you can't not hear it. We were having a Christmas party. I think Gary had a Christmas party, and he said, "Yeah, you could hear the Sharpie, you could hear Jackie Sharpie." And Dan Foreman, the Channel 9 guy, said, "You're crazy, you're crazy." And then next time we shut down, he said, "I heard it, I heard it."
Right, once you hear it,
And that,
can't unhear
my
it.
girlfriend Victoria, that I went out with, this is great. We got to San Francisco on the E! Show before the radio show was syndicated.
Right.
Okay? So she got a kick out of the show, and she's watching, and she's like, "You never saw me except you saw me, bent over." She's like, "What's that guy doing?" and then the radio show hit the airwaves in San Francisco, and she worked with a Sharpie. And all of a sudden she's listening, and she hears the squeak of the Sharpie, the beat, delivers a line, and then the big laugh. And she said, "That fucking guy's writing." And she pieced it together. I mean, it's not rocket science, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
Didn't you tell me Howard was great at circling around and back?
He would, the only reason it worked is because he's so smart and so brilliant. Everything I wrote, he worked in so seamlessly that so many people to this day don't even believe. I say, "Oh, yeah, I used to write stuff." They said, "Oh, bullshit," But I could write something about Gary, and he could make it about Fred. Or I could write something about Fred, and he'd make it about me. Or he'd switch something around. But we were going so fast that sometimes I'd get something up there, and the moment we passed, and he would circle around the conversation or revisit where we've been to make sure he used that line. It was pretty amazing stuff.
And even watching the old E! shows like on YouTube or whatever, just seeing see you in the background, and obviously they cut to you too, and then Jackie Puppet, and it's just such a
It's a phenomenon.
It is.
Great fun.
And to
Something that can never be duplicated either.
that's what it feels like.
Definitely.
In the very beginning, when I first started working at Governor's, I could actually check on this. But very early on, when I started at Governor's, I was already on the Stern Show. And Howard came with his pregnant wife, and they sat next to my pregnant sister and her husband. They were both pregnant at, you know, simultaneously, which is
They
so
got kids at the
Emily,
same
his
age?
daughter Emily's the same age as Jesse.
Amazing.
But I think that was probably October or November of 1981.
And now
But,
here
you know,
we
the
are,
thought of
4
him
years
coming
later.
all the way, you know, not coming all the way out, I think he was in Rockville Center at the time, but just, you know, it was a show of support, you know.
That's what it's all about.
There was actually, I forget why, but there was a show I was doing, and Fred and Howard came to the show, and me and Fred were on stage playing guitar together. And me, Howard, and Fred were on stage together. I have no idea what we're doing. But
You were
I
in a
think-
band when you were younger, right? You were in a band, right?
Early on. But why they showed up, we had to have had a reason, but I don't remember what it was. But we had a lot, you know.
There's really not much. You've done gymnastics, played guitar, comedy.
What can't you do?
He writes books.
None of them anymore.
He's most proud that he used to work for 3 weeks before the guy fired him at Arby's. That's the biggest
Two for 6 beef and cheddars.
Delicious.
Ask them.
Ask me what?
About the name.
What we got?
Why did they name Arby's Arby's?
Roast beef, right? Supposed to be RB, is that correct?
Beef and cheddar.
I'm so embarrassed I couldn't figure that
See?
out. I thought the guy who
When I
owned
said it was
named
RB, he
Arby's.
told me, because half the people say, of course it's RB, roast beef. But the other half of people, you tell that, they're like, you're crazy. That's a coincidence. Yeah, he said that was the guy's name. I said, you moron. You know?
I had no idea.
That's all right.
You learn something new every day.
Lord and Taylor, the department store, I thought there were 2 guys who owned it, last name Lord and Taylor. But Taylor wanted to be a partner with God. So he took God and added him to the title of the store, Lord and Taylor. Lord doesn't stand for a person, it stands for God.
That's it.
Now
That-
you're making
now
this
I am
up.
not making that up. You
No,
guys
that
are
I didn't know.
this.
That I did not know. See?
I did not
We
know.
You're
traded
not, I am not going to repeat that story and then have him say, you asshole. I used to love to do that. Tell my friends
felt so-
lies, and they would tell. You know, Keith Richards, a million years ago, when I was very drunk in college,
Yes, sir.
or after college, at some point in my drunkenness, there was an interview. It might have been in Playboy, who knows where it was, but there was an interview with Keith Richards. And he said how, you know, they were really drunks and they were all addicted, but that they would go to Switzerland and have their blood
Yes.
swapped out
Yes.
and clean and put back in.
Rumors forever.
And I was like, that is so unfair to us drunks that can't afford to do that. That means he gets to start over from square one.
Yeah, not cool,
And if you
man.
read his book, he says, yeah, you know, you get so bored with these interviews, you just start making stuff up. And
see.
there was one interview I told him they used to clean our blood and put it back in, and these fucking idiots ran it, you know? And I'm like, wow.
And still to this day,
I was
it's
one of those
believable.
idiots.
See, that's what we're doing wrong. We need to start making up stories,
Let's
man.
make- let's make
Making
up stuff.
That's it. That's it.
You got some food questions.
I got a few rapid fire
Now,
questions for you.
Do you still partake in the drink or no?
I haven't had a drink in over 20 years.
Amazing. And you said
That's really good.
And you said 420 before. Do you still hang out with Willie Nelson?
Me and Willie exchange dirty jokes weekly, monthly, depending. I'll send him 10 killer jokes and he'll type out an old joke from 1950. No, we send jokes back and forth and he's just at the line.
420 is bigger for you than Christmas. I think that's what they're trying to do.
That's right. That's the new Christmas. That's for everybody.
I think that's what these guys are
I
trying to do.
tweet a joke every day at Jackie Martling. And I tweet the
correct.
joke every day at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, International Marijuana.
I love it. It's true. You set your Twitter to it.
Your Twitter, your stopwatch, your GoPro, whatever you want.
When you did drink, what was the go-to food?
You know, I drank Budweiser forever, and I had no taste buds. I don't think I've tasted anything since 1968. And
What about
it
Heineken?
was weird. I couldn't tell the difference between a Budweiser and a Schaefer. But it's so funny because in high school we used to go to my friend Red's house, and his father only drank Budweiser. And we'd take a sip of it, And if you used the Schaefer and
Uh-huh.
it was so bitter,
Yes.
noticeably bitter. It was like, oh, this sucks. But it was in the refrigerator and it was beer, so you drank it.
Right.
Eventually, that was all I drank. I didn't like Jack Daniels, but I would drink it if you want to take the express instead of the local stops. In the summer, we'd drink gin and tonics sometimes. And, the holidays, I'd wake up in the morning and have Jack Daniels and Diet Coke for breakfast.
Good morning.
God knows what used
Breakfast
to
of
happen.
champions.
I love it.
But it's so funny because I quit drinking in 2001. And I said, you know what? In the 70s, I drank beer and Jack Daniels. And then in the 80s, I didn't drink Jack Daniels anymore. I just drank beer. And then in the 90s, I drank light beer. So I kind of was tapering.
It was a slow end. He eased in gently.
stoppage, yeah.
They,
As far as
they applauded.
Heineken was swill, but
I'm all about school beer. Love it.
that was our.
But they asked
the
you,
official
they asked
sponsor.
you what's your go-to food
Right.
back when you were.
So
When you
after
were
you had a
old,
drink, whatever
I
you drink.
thought you meant go to. What was your go-to drink?
Both.
Both.
Well, we found out
Go-to
both.
beer,
so
go-to
now,
food.
you're feeling good. You're
Well,
all,
what's
what are you going
open
to?
late in Bayville is Souvlaki, so you went to
Yes,
there you
Souvlaki,
go.
which is still there on
Yep.
the strip in Bayville. There was no McDonald's or anything like that around there. We used to go to Jack in the Box, we were playing in the band.
Wish they were still here.
Have you guys even heard of Wetson's?
Yes.
You've heard of it?
I feel like I have to.
Yeah. There's one in Hicksville, correct?
Yes, there
Well, there
was.
was
Which
one in
was- which
Syosset,
became-
which is now Burger King.
And then one in Hicksville was actually down the road from here. Became Titus Oaks, is that
I
correct?
think you're right, are correct.
Which is a
Very
record
good.
store. And now it's a Dunkin' Donuts.
There-
There's your history
You're
on,
a historian.
on Hicksville landmarks.
Wetson's was
They're all
long,
gone.
long ago. There was no sitting down. It was just a window, and in the winter there'd be like a little piece of plastic around it. But that was it. And they actually had a ultraviolet thing there to catch the bugs. And my friend Laurie Mertens used to work there, and we'd go up to the window, and all of a sudden you hear zzz, and he'd go, there goes another French fry. So disgusting. Oh my God.
Man.
All right. Best food when stoned.
Yes.
All of it.
All of it.
You gotta get some. Come on.
I love
Celebrating 420 daily.
barbecued ribs,
Okay.
of course,
From where?
anywhere. Going to the diner after a show,
Of course.
After
having a
anything.
burger or a burger and fries with the guys. That's always
Do
fantastic.
you get the disco fries with the gravy and the cheese?
Well,
Do
we
that?
used to early on. That was
Now,
that was the Bob
cholesterol.
Woods thing.
Yeah.
We're all watching our figures now.
That's
It's
right.
the whole thing. So.
French fries and the turkey gravy and the whole deal.
Nothing better. Long Island staple.
I'm now turned on.
For the most part, it was like whatever's in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Right.
Best food after sex.
You're gonna have to think way back on this.
I was never really one of those guys that got done. And,
You didn't have a hero next to the lamp?
no, I just rolled over. I was done. I was done. It was not like, let's get done with it so we can go eat.
Right. You focus on the task at hand.
Besides, if you do it right, you've already eaten.
That's correct.
Favorite Thanksgiving side?
Favorite Thanksgiving side?
Yes.
Side dish. Sides of turkey. Got the turkey. Got the gravy.
Got your ham.
Your favorite thing is what else? Stuff.
Stuffing.
Good old stuff.
Which I always made. And then my new sweet, lovely, delightful girlfriend Barbara just
Aw.
she does that now. I don't get to do it.
You don't get to make it no more? Barbara, please let him cook.
I didn't.
He wants to. Do you see
I
the
didn't think
passion?
the onions small. I'm a pothead. I'm drinking. They cut up the onions. Somebody
Do you put
goes
sausage in it? Or not?
in my girlfriend.
Both. What,
No sausage.
that or the, nothing?
It's
Keep
sausage
it
and
just.
stuffing. Oh, please. You probably put
not it.
horseradish and Bloody Mary, right?
I don't like Bloody Marys.
I love Bloody Marys.
I hate
Not-
Bloody Marys.
Horseradish does not go in
A
a Bloody
da-
Mary.
a
That
dash.
makes it shrimp sauce.
Correct.
No wonder I haven't liked it lately. It's all been shrimp sauce.
See?
I just go to the store.
That's what I feel like. I'm
drinking
drinking-
shrimp sauce. I gotta get a buzz somehow.
What do you cook? Besides, you
I
make the
make
stuff in your
incredible shrimp sauce. I make great beef stroganoff. I did a cooking show, and they came over and I made an incredible, huge, terrific batch of beef stroganoff, and we're all sitting around eating it, and I go, fuck. The last thing you do is put in the sour cream, and I completely forgot. It's like having a steak sandwich without the steak.
That's right.
Like, God, I just made beef stew. And I used to make chicken Kiev a lot, which is a lot of work. That's, you flatten out chicken breast, and you put in a big chunk of butter and chives and a big thing of cream cheese, and you roll it up and you bread it and deep fry it. Ooh, it's
nice.
Move over Bobby Flay, move over Guy Fieri. Jackie Martlin's coming for you.
I got a bone to pick with that son of a bitch.
Which one?
Bobby Flay.
Uh-oh. What happened? Go on.
I always used to say I want to have a cooking show someday.
Right.
And after Woodsy died, I used to say, Nancy, I really like to have a cooking show. I want to have, you know, they always have overhead views of people cooking.
Right.
Except I had a thing above my counter. I wanted to actually have the cameraman lying there above me, just because it'd just be so stupid, shooting down. And I wanted to have. Did you ever see Topper?
No.
Do you know what Topper was?
Topper, a sitcom of a ghost.
Topper was a guy and his niece and her husband and the dog got killed in a crash. And
Sounds
they were,
fun.
And they were ghosts.
My go-to.
And he was the only one that could see or hear them. And so it's a classic Cary Grant movie, and then it was just Leo G. Carroll TV show forever. But I wanted to have a Weber grill, only with Disney World type eyes and mouth, with Bob Woods' voice. But I'm the only one that can hear him. So he would heckle me while I'm cooking. So I came up with a great name for the show, but I never pursued it. So one day, and anytime I saw somebody with a camera or something, in the old days, everybody didn't have a camera, you know. And I'd see a camera and say, oh man, I gotta do my show something. So one day I was at my friend Burf's, and he had rented out his camera to this guy, Ack. And he's unloading the thing. I said, you know, Ack, every time I see a camera, I say, I gotta start my cooking show. I said, I always wanted to have a suburban cooking show, not fancy Julia Childs. I want to have it
Your favorite.
the right way to make shrimp sauce and the correct way to cook a hamburger and steak, and you only flip it once, and there's certain basic things. It'd be interesting. And blah, blah, blah. He says, they already beat you to it. I said, what are you talking about? It's this guy Bobby Flay who's doing the same thing, only he's doing it in Brookville a little bit more upscale. I had been to California the year before with a friend who was thinking of hiring me for a movie. Got really drunk with him and his wife and this other guy. And him and the wife went home, and me and this other guy got really drunk, and we're telling each other our life stories. And I told him about my idea for a cooking show, which is a no-brainer. I'm going to do a cooking show. You know, I got an idea.
That's why we're here. We're pitching this to Food Network today.
Surprise, Bobby Flay, we're coming for you.
Let's use napkins, you know. So, this guy Wayne Page, that's his name. I told him my life story. So all of a sudden, a year later, Ack says, yeah, they're doing this, and he describes this show. And I'm thinking, that's my idea. If we went through the Hollywood ringer, you know, a little bit nicer place, a little bit blah, blah, blah. Bobby Flay wasn't really known hardly yet, or at least not to me.
Right.
A couple days later, the phone rings. Jackie, this is Wayne Page, the guy from a year ago. We're doing a show here with Bobby Flay for the Food Network, and we want you to be a guest. I don't know if you guys, you're not old enough to remember, but when cable first started, nobody had any programming.
No.
Comedy Central, they ran everything 100 times.
Yeah.
If you had a Food Network show, they ran it 100 times because they didn't have the programming. And so I did, they said, you come do this show, you can promote anything you want. So me and Nancy go over to this house in Brookville, and we did a course, and then I held up a videotape for, I don't think I had CDs yet, and then we did another course, and I said, and this is my t-shirts, and it was funny, it was goofy. And they aired it every 5 minutes. So people called the Stern Show constantly. Jackie's on TV again now. Jackie, oh, he's promoting his crap. And it made it sound like I was standing in front of everybody's television with my shit. So we go downstairs, and Bobby Flay says, "Oh man, you're such a great guest, Jackie. I'll give you a copy of my book." And he gives me a copy of his book, and I open it up, and the name of his production company was the name of the show that I pitched to Wayne Page.
Bob.
But it's such a simple play on words that anybody could have come up with it, which is the old argument for every joke. And the name of the show was Boy Meets Grill.
And still to this day.
Oh man.
Is that his production company still?
He has a show, I
Boy
believe.
Meets Grill.
Yes,
Now the
one of
point
many.
is, did Wayne Page pitch him with that? That could have been what got him in the front door. Did he mention it to him? Did he come up with it totally independently? With the timing and everything, and every friend, they all tell me no. That's a Jackie.
You should
that's
do
a Jackie corner.
Bobby Flay Throwdown, where he battles out, you versus him.
No, I would
You make some stroganoff.
I would just like to ask him.
Throwdown,
Where
showdown,
the-
onto the face. That's part 2
Done.
of this podcast.
Bobby.
I'd like to know where that, that's, if he said, oh, that hit me one night, that's completely possible.
It is.
That's copyright infringement. Is what that is. Okay, there's legal issues we will be dealing with you
But
later.
that wasn't the name of the show, that was the name of his production
And
company.
it became a show.
Boy Meets
So you
Grill.
see? Royalties.
3 more questions. Favorite meal of the day.
The next one.
Favorite food.
Pussy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right.
I love,
The last one will coincide with the first one.
I love, you can't have a favorite food.
Overall, if you would
Because your
say
favorite
what,
food
what'd you
is
go to?
steak.
Go to
but,
food.
but if I, medium rare steak, I absolutely love
From
it.
where?
But if I just,
from where?
you know what? I don't like that.
Okay.
Because people say, oh, Morton's, they have the greatest, that's the greatest steakhouse. Rothman's, that's the greatest steakhouse. There is no greatest steakhouse. They're all great steakhouses.
Sure.
It's the piece of meat that you get that night at that place.
Correct.
Major
That's true.
Steakhouse of East Meadow.
That too.
That too.
On the lower end.
Last
On
question.
the lower higher end.
What food do you cook the best?
Steak.
What's the technique? What do? You keep it simple?
You never
Pizza meat?
flip it over, and you cook it on a really, really hot barbecue. And I argue with people because a real good friend gave me a barbecue that sits right outside the house. Propane, and it's hot, but it ain't charcoal.
No.
And I,
That's
when I
certain
was
taste.
single, I had a Weber grill on my front porch, which is a little porch, and I put the big stack in the thing of briquettes, and then, I had a raging fire. And
Still does.
And I would put the steak on and have a big glass of water, and when throw the water on it to put the flame out.
Sure. Smoke.
Put it be a little charred on the outside and red on the inside.
That taste is great though.
People go nuts.
Let's go full Barbara Walters here. If you were going to be reincarnated as an animal, what animal would it be? And would it be tasty?
Your mom.
That and so much more.
On a new,
Governors.
These two.
September 25th, 7 p.m. Governor's Comedy Shop, Saturday night, 7 p.m. September 25th, the 40th anniversary of Governor's Comedy Shop. I can guarantee you a lot of the jokes will be the same as they were in 1981.
Bobby Flay, you're invited. He will be seeing you at the flag.
That's right. Your name will be on the list. Peter Bales will be opening, of course.
Oh, it'll be
Jackie. Jackie will be there. Jackie.
I would just love some interview about, that Boy Meets Grill, that's so witty. When did you come up with that?
We're gonna find
We're
out.
gonna pitch this to Food Network too after we leave.
That's correct.
Okay.
So jokeland.com, at Jackie Martling on Twitter and Instagram.
And I answer every email to this day. Jokeland AOL.com.
Still to
When you're
this
done
day.
laughing at the fact I'm still on AOL,
He's been buffering since 1981.
take a flying swing at a rolling donut. Jokeland at AOL.com.
And please follow me on MySpace.
And Vine.
So many comedians, so little time.
And you're on Cameo too.
Cameo.com/Jackie Martin. I've done a few of them.
Only a few.
No, they're great.
And they're affordable.
If you got
And
somebody you want to insult, you want to congratulate them on the divorce,
Yeah.
tell your aunt that you can't believe she made it to 95.
Bar mitzvahs, weddings.
Did I tell you I got a buddy that said my aunt is such a pain in my ear. Every wedding, she pokes me. You're next. Every wedding, you're next. She doesn't do it anymore. I said, why not? He says, now I do it to her at funerals.
Saturday.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
After a
Saturday.
message from our sponsor, the Bar and Iced Tea.
Saturday. Yes, thank you to them.
Thank you to the Bar and Iced Tea. Appreciate it.
And Govs.com is where people can go get the tickets for Saturday night.
Jokeland.com has
Got
a
to.
link directly
Okay.
to the ticket page.
That's the way to go. Jackie, thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Very,
Thank
very
you,
much.
boys. Thank you, boys. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Pedro.
All right, my
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We're going to go to Arby's after this.
Yes, we're going to Arby's. Two
Now
for
that
six,
we all know what it means.
2 for 6 cheddar and beef.
RB.
I had no
RB.
idea. No
Super
idea.
Sandwich Bros, Radio Brett, To The Face Podcast, all on
Jackie
Instagram,
Martling.
Jackie Martling.
Peter Bales on
Peter
MySpace.
Bales on MySpace and Vine and Tumblr if you're about that.
Name it. He's
All
there.
right, Bobby Flay, it's on next week. Get ready, he's coming.
It's going to be a real throwdown.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you.